This is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a marvelous day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. Well, today we're tackling the subject of Black Americans being lazy. If you're like me, you are wondering, where did this come from? And why do people specify Black Americans being lazy? This is a stereotype that has made its way around the world, and every time somebody wants to make a smutty remark about Black Americans, they'll call us lazy. You don't want to work, you don't want to do this, and you don't want to do that. So as you rack your brain trying to figure out why are people invested in whether Black Americans work or not, put some thought to it, and you will see that it comes from the same place that everything else comes from to do with Black Americans. It all started during slavery. I've consulted several sources trying to get to the root of why people are so obsessed with whether or not Black Americans are lazy. So I came across this article from the Brookings Institution, and it's entitled, Black Innovators Who Elevated the United States, Reassessing the Golden Age of Inventions. Now, this is talking about how America basically stole the intellectual properties of Black people and insinuated that white people invented things that they didn't invent, like the electric light bulb, like the telephone, like the telegraph machine, like the home security system, like the touch-tone telephone, call waiting and caller ID, like the GPS system that we all rely on for getting around, like so many other inventions. It takes work to invent something. It takes time. It takes talent. It takes effort. A Black man invented the traffic light, and there has been no real improvement on that since the invention. That same Black man, Garrett Morgan, invented the gas mask. No major improvements have been made on it because the invention was right from the start. There are so many, and we talk about that on this channel all the time. And these inventions are just bonuses. They're just icing on the cake. The real work was done in putting this economy and this infrastructure in place. And that was done by the enslaved people through their labor. 246 years of free labor working from can to can't. From Monday to Saturday afternoon, they gave them a little bit of time off on Sunday, and it was right back to the grind on Monday. But when somebody else is leading the narrative, they're getting the word out. They can read, they can write, they control all of the media, the newspaper, and they are spreading the lie all over the world, even as you are working like a beast of burden to build this economy. They are out there lying on you. Then really, there is no recourse for you. Black people couldn't even read and write. We didn't even know what they were writing about us. Couldn't read their language and couldn't speak our own. So when you're up against this kind of a beast, it's almost nothing that you can do except speak your truth. Back to this article, it says, Black labor has been fundamental to the growth of America and our economy. Enslaved people, our ancestors, built the country's early infrastructure and produced lucrative commodities such as cotton and tobacco. After emancipation, after slavery ended, African American labor was crucial in industry, agriculture, and service. Yet, the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, which was established in 1884, only started gathering consistent data on African American workers in 1972. Now, all that time had passed with Black people doing most of the work in this country, but they started talking about it in 1972. Wonder why? Well, for nearly a century, African American workers did not appear even as data points. Now, Black people were intentionally left out of the discussions about labor in the United States of America because white people were taking the credit for the work that the Black people were doing. Now, let me just throw in a fun fact. After slavery, Black Americans owned 19 million acres of land in this country. That land was not given to them. They worked for that land. But now, Black Americans own about 3 million acres of land. They were swindled. They used the law of eminent domain to take black people's property. They came up with all of these property taxes and all different kinds of sneaky measures to take black people's land. But there was a time right after slavery, down here in the South, even now, a lot of black people own a lot of land. But at one point, it was 19 million acres, and there are those who say it was much more than that. But we know they owned 19 million, and we know that most of that land has ended up in the hands of somebody else. All kinds of trickery was done to take their land. But my point is that they worked for that land. Here's another kind of interesting thing that happened to black people relative to labor. During the Black Code era, some of these states down here in the South passed ordinances that required black women to work in domestic service and their children also. And the reason that they passed that law was so black women would go into white people's homes, cook, clean, babysit, wash, iron, and do everything else for $2, sometimes $3 a week. And that was done because white women were lazy and did want to do their own housework and take care of their own families. And the wages of black men were suppressed to the point that a black man could barely make enough money to take care of his family. Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee in April of 1968 because he was there protesting the city of Memphis for not paying those men a livable wage. These were sanitation workers picking up garbage all day long and were not making enough money to take care of their families. So this is when people say black people are lazy and don't want to work. Black people have worked in this country a long time for little or no wages. I cannot emphasize enough that much of the work that has been done in America in building this country and making it the empire that it is, much of the work that black people did was credited to white people. What happened, because we don't teach stuff like this in the schools, and people will just say stuff and they repeat it often enough, everybody believes it, but they're repeating lies. And there is a saying that if you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book. Well, this information is in books, hidden in plain sight. A lot of the labor practices in the United States and the history of black people working in America is in books. And the reason they say you can hide things from black people in books is because, remember, for 246 years, it was against the law for black people to learn how to read and write. And they thought that was always going to be the case. They didn't think we were ever going to learn what the trick was that they were playing on us. But oh, they were wrong. The thing about white Americans, and I always say this, whatever they do, they'll write it down. Now, if you don't search it out to find it out for yourself, you'll be subjected to the stereotypes that have been perpetrated against us. But they'll write it down if they do it. And the sad part about it is white people really believe that they did all this work in this country. Some of them didn't get here till 1880 or 1920 when the heavy lifting was already done. They think that they helped build this country, and they did not. I got another article from an online blog called Momentum, and the title of the article was The Racist Exploitative History of Laziness. And it starts out by saying that one powerful way that the enslavers attempted to justify enslaving African people into working hard was through religious teachings and indoctrination. Christianity taught that suffering was morally righteous and that slaves would be rewarded in heaven for being docile, agreeable, and most important, diligent, working hard. On the flip side, if the enslaved people resisted their enslavement, this person was taught that there was something fundamentally corrupt and wrong with them. By not accepting their proper role in society, they were demonstrating that they were broken and disturbed. This worldview became the foundation of American capitalism. the laziness lie was born. So American capitalism is based on the idea that black people are supposed to work for free, happily, and that is going to get them to heaven. You should never expect to be paid. That's how come they're having so much trouble paying us reparations, because we are not supposed to be paid. We're supposed to be happy to work for them for free. And if we don't, we are lazy, and they're going to tell the whole wide world that we are lazy and we don't want to work. So they got this stereotype out early, and it has worked. It has worked like a charm. Everybody has jumped on that bandwagon. So anytime they get mad at us, they start calling us lazy. In the meantime, what have our parents told us? You have to work twice as hard as a white person to get anywhere, because the cards are stacked against you. So you come in and do your double duty while they're sitting around drinking coffee and playing cards and talking about when they're going to play golf again. And you're in the meantime out there busting your behind trying to make people believe that you are a hard worker. And they will never believe that you are a hard worker because they don't want to believe that you're a hard worker. So what has come to the rescue of black Americans is American labor laws. They began passing labor laws in 1935. Now, the states didn't always enforce those laws, but those laws were on the book. The rights and duties of employees, labor unions, and employers are set by labor law in the United States. Labor's law basic aim is to remedy the inequality of bargaining power between employees and employers, especially employers organized in the corporate or other forms of ownership association. So, in other words, before black people could begin to be paid a decent wage, the government had to intervene. But that did not stop people from carrying over those stereotypes. So black people were here from the very beginning of this country. The foundation of this country was laid by the labor of black people. But now we know why they always pin this lazy tag on us. It's because they really expect us to work free. And if we resist in any way, we're lazy. And that's what they're going to tell the world. But we are the main players in this economy. Black American culture is America's #1 export. They used to lie and say black movies didn't do well overseas. Well, guess what happened when they did Black Panther? Guess what happened when they played Roots way back in the 70s or the 80s? Black culture sells no matter what form it's in, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's sports, black culture sells. Even this movie with Halle Bailey, this mermaid, the Little Mermaid. Oh, they said it was going to do just $10 million. That movie's done $163 million. It has done better than any Little Mermaid movie that they have ever produced. Everything that black people collectively do in America is successful. It is well documented that the enslaved people, our ancestors, built the infrastructure and the economy of the United States of America. That is indisputable. Black Americans created all of the music forms and gave the country rhythm. The architecture, the agriculture, everything that has been done in America, black people were at the forefront of it. But white people got the credit. So the only way to really combat stereotypes and lies is with the truth. We speak the truth and, let the chips fall where they may. But I was listening to a YouTube channel the other day, and a young Somali woman gave a pretty good summary about how white Americans operate in the world and how they work to indoctrinate other people against black Americans. I'm not going to play the video. I don't want to get into any kind of copyright situation, but I am going to leave it in the description box so you can listen to what this young Somali woman said about how America indoctrinate especially Africans against black Americans with this whole lazy and all these other things they say about us. They stay focused on Black Americans. They don't perpetuate these stereotypes about anybody else. When the man on YouTube said Black people are an obsession, I believe it, because it's an obsession. We got to get something out about those Black people. We got to talk about what Black people do. We got to talk about Black people. That's an obsession. But anyway, you can't prove a negative. If people say you're lazy, you cannot prove you are not lazy, because people believe what they want to believe. But what we need to understand is where this lie began. This started in slavery. It's been propagated because, number one, white people truly believe that Black people should provide free labor for America forever. And number two, they want to take credit for the work we do. It's just that simple. We built the economy. We continue to drive the economy. We are the most important people in terms of building this country of any Americans. So the next time somebody has the audacity to call you lazy, just tell them they don't know what they're talking about, because they really don't. They don't even know what they're talking about. Okay, y'all. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Share the video. And as always, have a great day.